I'm alright. What's up? It's your boy Z-Dog MD. Today we're going Tribe Talk. We're going hard and we're going deep. So take away the children and the people, the snowflakes that are going to put their fingers in their ears and go ah la 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 la, because it's going to get real, people. What do you think, Heineber?
Why are we going hard and deep today, Z? Also, that sounds real weird.
Sounds real right, Tom Heineber. We're going hard and we're going deep because we're talking race in America and in healthcare in particular. And whenever we talk race, the butt hurt flies. So we're going to use some dirty language. We're going to keep it real because you guys expect honesty from us, and you will not be disappointed because we're going to get honest as fudge. I still feel weird with the F-bomb.
Okay, so have you seen this clip yet that we're about to play? Of this woman is yelling for a white doctor, and it's terrible.
So about 30 people sent me this clip. 30 people, and I didn't even see the clip in the thing, and it said, oh my God, I can't believe this. Oh my God, I'm so appalled. And I just responded to each of them, and I'm like, wait, it's breaking news that people are racist? How is this news? Like, we live this ish every day in healthcare. It is what it is. So I haven't seen the actual clip.
So let's watch it right now.
I'm gonna watch this clip.
Please see a white doctor.
It's only available after 4 if you're not.
So you're saying in the whole entire building there isn't one white doctor?
Your kid has to be seen by a pediatrician.
Okay, so you're telling me that my kid has chest pains, he's gonna have to sit here until 4 o'clock. Can I see a doctor, please, that's white? I would like to see a white doctor. You're telling me there's not one white doctor in this whole entire building?
Yes, no.
Stupid.
Oh my God, well what's the closest that you have to speaking English?
Okay, so you have to keep in mind that there's other people there. So hospital is the best.
No, I stood there, and they only have brown doctors, and it's not how my kid. And there was another kid that died there and had her arms and legs amputated. My kid's chest is hurting.
Okay, so that's why you have to go there.
Oh my God, what type of horrible country do I live in?
I don't know. You
My
have
kid
to
is
ask
sick,
yourself.
so I want to see somebody else that doesn't have brown teeth that speaks English then.
Just like,
My kid is sick. I spoke in perfect English before I asked to have somebody that speaks perfect English help us.
There's nobody.
There's nobody that's Canadian? Nobody that was born here? My kid is part not white, so can we get somebody to see him that at least speaks English? I spoke in English. We want somebody Canadian to see him. There must be one person that he was not speaking English. His teeth were brown. I do not need his help.
I'm here. Oh my God.
His chest is hurting and he's sick. I'm not going there with all those tacky doctors. I don't have money to go to Georgia. There's got to be somebody that speaks English here.
Your child clearly has more issues with you being his mother than him needing to see a doctor. You are extremely rude and racist. You want to talk about packy people being at a hospital? Maybe you should check yourself
There was a daughter,
I don't
a girl
care.
that died over there. I'm asking for my special
But I'm sure she didn't die because someone was from.
Why are you yelling at me? This is what happens when
You are yelling at everyone. You're yelling at
I'm
everyone.
kind of sick.
So
you're
what?
Coming here to fight me because
No,
you're
we are not fighting. We are
You're
fighting
brown.
because.
You're brown. You're all attacking
Well,
me.
there are. I'm sure there are other people who are reasonable.
Because you're racist.
No, it's because I'm
And
white.
because you're
No.
You're
using
attacking me.
racial slurs.
Hold on,
That's not
General,
okay.
step back. This is my personal bubble.
She is perfectly standing right, fine here.
Canada? Canada? That's borderline Florida behavior.
Look, bitches, I call that Thursday around here. Like, you all haven't seen that happen? I've seen that happen. I've seen it happen in the emergency department. I've seen it happen in urgent care. I've seen it happen on the wards. And usually on the wards, it's a demented old lady who's 105 who's like, black people, black people. And in the VA, people who are demented and are screaming horrible racist slurs against any Asian member of the staff. But this is interesting, Tom, because it was an Indian dude, I believe a Punjabi guy, judging by his last name, Badarwaj. I'll have to double check what his name was. But he's filming it, and he's a patient there waiting, and his daughter gets up in the woman's face. Now, what does your elephant say about this, Tom?
Well,
Meaning your unconscious immediate reaction.
This person's a fucking moron. That's the first thing I think.
Tom's a white devil.
Tom is the white devil. Look, so she used the term packy, which is, it's a more British thing, and of course it's Canada. They're effectively communist British. you know, this term Paki is a derogatory term against South Asians in general, not just Pakistanis. And so she used that term, which is very offensive, and she used some other terms, and she was just kind of raging against the fact that a foreign or international medical graduate was to see her child. She complained that he had brown teeth and couldn't speak English, and she wanted a Canadian, goddammit, because Canada. And I'm going to tell you, none of this surprises me. None of this even upsets me, because I know that there are people who still think this way. And both of my parents are from India. They have thick accents. They're physicians. They would have been the target of this woman's anger in this particular clinic. But you know what's strange, Tom? And I'm reading the comments and people are outraged righteously and so on. I'm not mad at her, because I feel like there's just something went wrong in this woman's life, either in how she had experienced something, or the way she was educated, or her family upbringing, that made her elephant this kind of racist, judgmental elephant. And she really can't help the way she's behaving. She's under stress. She's worried about her kid. She's on the defense. None of it is excusable, but I don't have this like angry, hateful reaction to her. I just feel bad for her. I feel like we could do better as a society to prevent this kind of stupid thinking, right? But what do you think?
I mean, it's almost, I do have a somewhat empathetic reaction to her. Apart from the fact where she's screaming, "Get me a white doctor."
Yeah, right.
Which throws it totally out the window. Like, fuck her.
No, I mean, and again, if you can't laugh about this, you just get pissed off and start rioting in the street. I mean, the truth is, look, we all know people think this shit, right? She just has the good grace to go up and start ranting it at someone who actually has no power about it. She's powerless. She feels out of control. She's inherently got racist beliefs, which is how she's conditioned. And this is what she's doing. Can we accept it in society? No. Should we throw a ton of hate her way? Probably not, but I think we have to accept that this is a part of the way people think in the US and Canada, around the world. There's a lot of innate bias and racism. And how do we handle it? Now, it's interesting because someone in the comments here, Joy Ibrahim, let's get real. First of all, she's scared about her kids, but she thinks that insulting people will help her get somewhere in the system. She's dead wrong, and her approach is awful. Well, and let's extrapolate this. Someone else said, well, at least she didn't hit anyone. I just got punched in the nose by a racist old man. Who said, here it is. At least she's only verbally abusive, says Kiri Ransom. I got my nose broken yesterday by one of those racist old men. Thought I was foreign and socked me. It still hurts. Okay, now fuck that, right? Now that is a different game. If someone is fucking hitting you, all right, verbal abuse is bad enough and it's inexcusable. But first of all, hitting a healthcare professional, no, we've already talked about that shit. But doing it because you're a fucking racist, that's when my elephant gets pissed off, because now you're directly fucking harming another person. Now, other people in that waiting room were harmed. You don't think the Indian family that was filming it fucking felt really bad when this woman was behaving this way? It was enough that the daughter of the man who was filming got up and got in her face, right? So, I don't know, man. I think that if we can't even talk about this shit without getting super pissed off and judgmental, then we have a long way to go as a society, but we can't accept this kind of behavior. We certainly can't accept violence. Tommy?
It's sort of interesting because, okay, so like we've all heard this, these stereotypes done in a positive light. Like you'd be like, dude, I need a Jewish lawyer, okay? Like I need a Jewish accountant. Like that one gets thrown around a lot by people, and it's a superlative.
Yeah.
Right? And there are superlatives for races, but saying I need a white doctor is incredibly damning to every other doctor who's non-white.
Well, it's damning, but it's also statistically potentially inaccurate. So there has been data showing that foreign medical graduates actually, in some measures, do better than American-trained doctors and better than American-born doctors who are trained in outside of the U.S., like the Caribbean, et cetera. And one of the theories is that many international medical graduates are at the top of their class in their countries of choice. So you're getting the cream of the crop that are leaving their countries to come here and practice, whether it's Canada, the U.S., or wherever. Whereas that may not be the case with the locally born and trained doctors. And this is just a simple selection bias. It's not a race thing. It's a selection. You're selecting the smartest people in a country versus the average in another country.
I mean, I look at this person and I just think I think she's just down here, and it doesn't even offend me because she's trying to punch up at the world. Like everyone's above this woman. You know?
Well, that's the thing is like my primary response is a kind of a pity for everybody in that room, right? So the person behind the desk, the poor clerk who has to deal with this woman escalating and figure out how to de-escalate her before there is a violent episode, which again we've been talking about the nurse who was shot in Ocala, the nurse who was stabbed in Massachusetts, the nurse who was raped at Delnor Hospital. This goes on and on and on, and we can talk about the doctor who was sucker punched in Australia, the surgeon, and was in critical care, and I don't know what his status is now. So this can go on and on and on, but there's a pity for the kind of suffering that you have to encounter in your own life to be able to behave that way in public, or the failure of a upbringing or a system or an educational system to somehow condition that out of you, because it's not in anyone's interest to behave that way.
Now, if she was screaming just for, I want an English-speaking doctor, and she wasn't saying, I want a white doctor, would that be different, and then would that be excusable?
If she was screaming for an Indian doctor?
No, just an English-speaking doctor.
Yeah, no.
I want an English-speaking doctor,
Well,
because clearly she was having trouble communicating with her doctor.
Let's think about that. That's interesting. We couldn't communicate. The problem is a failure to communicate. So she's screaming, I want someone who speaks English. I don't care who they are, but I would need to be able to understand them. What do you think about that? I mean, Logan, what do you think? Do you think that's asking for an English speaker?
I don't say anything wrong.
Not relating to race. Because if I can't communicate, I'll tell you, I worked in a Spanish-speaking clinic. I didn't speak much Spanish. I found it I felt it was demeaning to the patients that I couldn't communicate with them, and I had to use a translator that it took forever to get, and I couldn't get the nuance. And that's not to diminish the interpreters, because they do a heroic job and they have to be there, but it was very hard, and I felt like I was doing the patients a disservice, right, by not knowing Spanish. So that may be a different nuance. Now, I think what she's doing is obviously she's conflating it. There's clearly racist component, but she wants the best care for her child, and she's been conditioned to believe that a clear English speaker that's white will deliver that care, right? Whether or not it's true, that's what she's been conditioned to believe. Mm-hmm. She's trying to fight for her child, so can we have pity for her or just pure anger and scorn and judgment?
Well, she's in mama bear mode, isn't she?
She is in mama bear mode. I mean, she's trying, again, she's upset about her child. She made a point of saying, my child is half non-white, which is an interesting way to frame it, right? Half non-white. Like there's white, which is awesome, and then there's non-white, which is,
just like my kid.
There you go.
It's almost like she's saying my child has a detriment too.
Right.
Right, which is
my child is
very
partially
strange.
abled. They're only partially white.
I say this all the
is.
time, but I didn't think I was going to have to grow up in this world where we labeled everybody white and black and Mexican, whatever. Like I thought it was just going to be content of character, like Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I could just judge people on like this dude's an asshole, this chick I hate, like just equal opportunity for hatred of all peoples.
Yeah, you're living in a fantasy land, Tom.
I know.
This is America.
Apparently
Okay,
I
we
am.
hate people based on the color of their skin.
Damn straight.
And the content of their character. Actually, often we like someone for the color of their skin and then ignore the content of their character. Barbara Switzler says, constant cursing is not required to make a point, but it is required to be fucking awesome, Barbara.
Boom.
Kitty Cruz, OMG, this is everywhere. People are just fucking nuts. So Kitty's cursing. I am, quote, white, and I get yelled at for instructing them on the way I need to behave while I am performing my job. I'm currently a PSR. So, like, people are telling her, tell these non-white people as a white person to fucking behave. It's kind of nutty. Hey, by the way, Tom, you've been to Hawaii.
Hell yeah.
The first place on the planet, I worked there for a month at Queen's Clinic, Honolulu, where I felt like I was in the majority ethnically, because everybody was off-white. And I almost felt like white people were discriminated against there. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. You ever been to Hawaii? They hate you if you're white.
Is that true?
Yeah, it seeps out in every interaction you have with somebody there. You'd be like, can I get towels? And the guy would just scowl at you and be like, no.
I don't know, Tom, because when I hear you say this stuff, all I see is a frickin' Howley flapping his gums. So.
I suppose they have a good reason to hate white people, but they do hate white people, in fact.
That's your impression.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see how much
No,
hate we get from
that's
white.
a straight up fact. That's not my impression.
So the point is, you can experience racism if you're white as well as not white. And the idea is that racism as a whole, this idea of judging people based on the color of their skin or their accent or their ability to speak perfect English, which actually is not correlated to medical ability, all right? That's probably pretty clear, although we'd have to do a 1,000-person randomized controlled trial to prove it. It's pretty clear it's not. Why are you talking about something that happened in Canada instead of disabled Americans being removed from their wheelchairs in the halls of the Senate? Taylor Bone.
What?
This was some political thing that happened today, Logan. Like somebody got pulled out of a wheelchair. I didn't see the story because I honestly am interested in racism right now because this is a medical piece that we're talking about. Another day we'll talk about this thing if it's really a thing or if it's not just one or the other political spectrum making a big deal out of something. I don't know yet because I haven't seen the case. At my teaching hospital, says Melissa Ackerman, there's so much diversity that some racists just shut up. We were empowered by management team and union not to put up with abuse. Melissa Ackerman. Now here's a question, Melissa and Tom and Logan. And everyone, Z-Pack, if the general culture is one of not tolerating racism and of promoting general tolerance, are we just covering up and sweeping under the rug an innate tendency to bias and prejudice that will then flare up in ways like this? Or are we, by changing the path that the elephant and the rider walk on, in other words, the environmental stimulus, we're reconditioning people's elephants to actually be less racist? What do you think?
I don't know. What's your opinion?
Could you just tell her to sit down and shut up, and we're going to take care of your kid? Can you just tough love it?
Well, like,
People
why
this?
can you act like that in a hospital or a clinic, but you can't act like that on an airplane or an airport?
Well, you do that in an airport now, and they'll kick you off, and they'll cancel the flight, and they'll turn the plane back around to the airport.
Exactly.
Right? So, well, this gets to the double standard that we have in healthcare. You can punch someone in the ER and get away with it, right? But you can't punch your mechanic and get away with it.
No.
Largely because the mechanic will punch you back. He has no ethical oath not to kick the shit out of you, right? But we do. We feel like we're constantly bound. And we are. We're actually hobbled. We have a crappy, in many hospitals, it's like a poorly trained security team that maybe isn't even armed and they're running around and patients are pissed off, they're emotional, they come from all kinds of backgrounds, some backgrounds where they're conditioned to just punch people when they disagree. And what ends up happening, and on top of that, more and more we're kind of pushing people who are socioeconomically challenged into the medical system where they're interacting with people instead of being seen outside, and what ends up happening is all kinds of problems. So, this is a long and troubled saga that we have to have zero tolerance for. Because again, I do think that changing the path that the elephant and the rider are walking on in hospitals is going to set a standard. It's going to recondition people that, no, you can't get crazy in the hospital because you will get slapped down, thrown in jail, kicked out, and it will hurt you and your family.
So this is going on in the comments. A bunch of people are commenting, either way on this. What do you think about the idea that only white people can be racist? Because this is what's being taught on college campuses across America.
Bullshit. That's fucking horseshit. You think only white people can be racist? Dude, some of the immigrants I've met are the most fucking racist people I've ever, and this is my community. They are so fucking, the Indian immigrant community, and I'm saying this as an Indian immigrant, like I listen to them talk, they really, it depends, and this isn't, I'm not gonna paint them all with one brush, but you will see severe racism. And it's racism not just against blacks and Mexicans and Chinese, it's racism against white people, anybody that isn't like them. That's the nature of racism, I think. There's some people who hate themselves and their own race, Logan, but there's other people, I'm kidding.
Me and Hitler, see?
and Hitler. But many people, it's really an in-group, out-group thing. And some would argue it's actually an evolutionary adaptation when you have in-group, out-group struggle. It's group selection. So trying to have your group succeed means really treating the others as demons. And so the question is, can we transcend, can we overcome this through social conditioning, cultural conditioning, teaching, education, and just generalized increase in compassion?
That makes way too much sense. See, all I know is that white people are evil, they're the only racist, everybody else is just killing the game, and it's white people that suck.
Well, Andrew Wilson says, guys, only white people can be racist. Did
He's
you
right.
know that?
He's right.
I like that.
We're racist as hell.
On any given shift, I'm likely to be the only white healthcare professional at my urgent care, Rick Kraske. And that's because we have a lot of Filipina nurses, we have a lot of Asian nurses, we have a lot of African American nurses, we have a lot of Latina nurses, we have a lot of Latina doctors, we have a lot, the world is mixing into this bowl, and either we can rage against it, which is probably destined for either violence or failure, or we can figure out how to maximize the benefits of it. And as somebody who's Indian, who's married a Chinese girl, who has hybrid children with hybrid vigor genetically, who hangs out with a white dude, a half Mexican, half Scot, and talks shit on the daily to a tribe that's as diverse as any tribe there is, we're the tribe of healthcare, I would advocate more the latter and trying to get along.
Carrie Peake says, sociologically speaking, by definition only, white people can be racist as it's a system of oppression and other people can be prejudiced.
What book are you reading?
In a power dichotomy with colonialism as our background,
Okay.
racism, in quotes, refers to more than just race, it refers to power. Who holds the power? That being said, anyone can be a bigot, Melissa Ackerman says. So only white people can be racist, Z, and everybody else can just be a bigot.
Let's go back to the Hawaiian story. Do you think that's true in Hawaii? I don't know. If you think they're really racist against white people?
Somebody disagreed with me in the comments. They said that, I forgot, I lost their name, but they said the Hawaiians only hate stupid white people. That's not true, my friends. I've been there. I'm not stupid and they hate me.
Oh my God, free Logan.
Why is that?
It's a hashtag.
Paul says whites oppressed. Yeah, fuck white people, Paul. Burn this mother down.
Racial prejudice can come from anyone, says Martha Kerber, and it all sucks. Racism is a racial prejudice backed up with the power of being part of the dominant group. So she's combining it, okay? That's how academics see it anyways, and I think it's distinctly it's a distinction worth making because it relates to the way harm is actually done to people. Now, here's the thing, Martha, like you could argue that even in the absence of power, harm can be done by racist ideology and belief. In other words, let's say Tom is in the power structure because he's white as fuck.
Hell yeah. Also, Jerry called me a dumb Hallie in the comments. That's racist. Or bigoted.
Tom, you're giving me chicken skin for days, bro. No, but I mean, Tom can still be hurt, at least mentally, by a group of people who bully him saying, hey, stupid whitey, right? Especially Logan, who does this to him constantly.
White people are the only ones in power. They're the only ones who control politics, the economy, etc., Eva says.
I just want to say I'm more racist than Tom.
By a
So
lot,
that disputes
by a
your
lot,
point.
by a lot.
By that description?
I'm not racist at all.
He's not.
That's true. Tom
really
is pretty
isn't.
unracist, which is remarkable because he's white as fuck. And as we know, all racism comes from white people.
It's so true. So true, man. White privilege is real, Z. I can't tell you how many times I've been at the country club, just walking down the hallway, minding my own business, and a nice, real estate developer pulls me in and just gives me a suitcase with $1 million in cash. And he doesn't even ask me to do any sexual favors or nothing. It's crazy.
It is amazing. Like the other day, I was in my gondola, and these guys were like, "Can we hop in with you?" And I'm like, "No, there's only room for 4 in here." Ta-ta! That was a Chappelle steal, but I'm going to take it. My friend lived in Hawaii and could not get an X-ray job, I'm assuming, because they would always hire native first, Jennifer Hager. Well, there are schools in Hawaii like Kamehameha that are built, that really are designed to accept ethnic Hawaiians because historically it's been such a crush, right? And then there's a school like Punahou, which takes everybody, i.e. rich white people. And I'm kidding, maybe? Well, didn't Obama go to Punahou? He did.
Did he?
Obama was a Punahou graduate. I'm pretending like I know Hawaii because I lived there for a
Is
month. I don't know
that in Kenya?
Oh, shit.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you because I was just mentally turning to Mecca and praying. Peruvians are racist against Mexicans, Renzo Antonio. I may have seen this exact racism, Renzo. Within Asian cultures, there's a hierarchy, right? So yes. the Japanese, the Chinese, then everybody else. And so racism is not limited. Now, this idea of it's limited to the people in power, in other words, that they can actually cause harm to others, it's an interesting one, but I think it's an academic one, honestly. And the problem with our campuses right now is we can't even talk about, let me tell you this, okay? When I talked about terrorism currently being a predominantly literal interpretation of radical Quranic interpretation, currently, that's where we're seeing most of the reported terrorism, and again, reported in the US. I got so much shit. I got angry messages from Pakistanis, from Muslims saying you're a bigot, you're intolerant. I can't even fucking talk about the nature of terrorism. I'm not saying I hate Islam or it's not a religion of peace or whatever. I'm just saying this is a statistical correlate. If we can't even have the conversation, guys, then, where the hell are we? It means we've got our head in the sand. We're missing truth and understanding and trying to figure out how to get better at everything. So we got to talk about this shit.
Okay, can we watch some of this video of this dumb, ignorant redneck again?
Why
know they
not?
had rednecks in
I'm going to come
Canada.
over there because I want to hear it properly.
Here, play it.
Shit, hang on.
Please see a white
What are those
doctor.
other headphones?
It's only available after 4.
Turn it up though, see
So you're saying in the whole entire building there isn't one white doctor?
Your kid has to be seen by a pediatrician.
Okay, so when you're telling me that my kid has chest pains, he's gonna have to sit here until 4 o'clock. Can I see a doctor, please, that's white? I would like to see a white doctor. You're telling me there's not one white doctor in this whole entire building?
Yes, no.
Stupid.
Oh my god. Well, what's the closest that you have to speaking English?
Okay, so you have to keep in mind that there's other patients out here. So hospital is the best.
No, I stood there, and they only have brown doctors, and it might not help my kid. And there was another kid that died there and had her arms and legs amputated. My kid's chest is hurting.
Okay, so that's why you have to go there.
Oh
If
my
you cannot-
god, what type of horrible country do I live in?
I don't know. You
My
have
kid
to
is
ask
sick,
yourself.
so I want to see somebody else that doesn't have brown teeth that speaks English then.
This lady is
My
awful.
kid is
Dude,
sick.
I got brown teeth
I
and
spoke
speak
in
English.
perfect English before I asked to have somebody that speaks perfect English help
nobody.
us.
There's no one here.
There's nobody that's Canadian? Nobody that was born here? My
Okay,
kid is part
I think we
not
can stop
white,
it
so
because
can we get
I have something to
somebody
say.
see him that at least-
Oh man, that lady is just the worst.
I would never let anyone wearing that yellow blouse touch my kid because that shit is gauche as fuck. But all joking aside, man, it's hard to watch shit like that because you're seeing kind of concentrated ignorance there. But did you not get the sense that she was also deeply upset and mother bearish about her kid just doing the wrong thing?
Well, she said she was sitting there for what, 5 hours, and her kids had chest pains, and she's
Right.
pissed. So
Right. Well, I'll tell you
I
one
can
thing,
see where she's going.
her kid's not having an MI.
he was texting, by the way.
The kid was texting?
He was.
10 out of 10 pain. Nah, let's not mess with the kid, although I want to. No, so, yeah. She doesn't even speak perfect English, says Bill Ponko.
She speaks Canadian.
She speaks Canadian English, which is no good, eh? I don't give a snot if my doctor's purple. If my kid's having chest pain and speaks Klingon, fix my kid and let's go from there. Exactly, and the way that Klingons would fix your kid is they would have them fight to the death in a Hokdah battle because that's what Klingons do. Brown doctors, white doctors, LMAO, April Johnson. I would have called the police because clearly she's harassing staff who have other patients to care for. Bye, Felicia. Actually, I would have done that too because she's escalating. I would have called security.
Now let me ask a question. There's obviously nothing that can excuse this behavior, but I have a scenario in my head when I watch this where I think, was this doc possibly just clicking through the boxes, sort of half talking around at the side of his mouth and, you know, not really paying attention? Is that possible?
Well, you can
I'm not saying inexcusable. She's the worst.
Let's
but-
establish. Her behavior is in no way excusable. Now, what might have triggered it? Typical health 2.0 bullshit where doctors like whatever and kind of blew it off, or she wasn't triaged, or it's taking forever, and she's expressing her anger in this primitive, stupid way that is unique to her conditioning. Yes, it still can't be tolerated. It has to be, you know, and obviously now she's quite famous, not in a good way. So nowadays with phones and all that, maybe that. But again, I worry, Tom, that all we're doing is subverting an undercurrent of hatred and bigotry that is going to simmer up in a much more maladaptive way when somebody comes to power that allows it to happen and everybody comes out of the woodwork, right, and says, you know what, I've always felt this way. It's like the kind of shit you read occasionally online where really, really, really extreme views on one end or the other. You go, okay, boy, if those guys ran the country, we'd be in big trouble. And are we just kind of pushing it down so that it resurges later? I don't know. But
Also, single payer, Z, your preferred system.
How's that
Look how
going?
it's working out.
you can shut your pie hole when you talk to me, Tom Heineberg. I never said single payer is my preferred system.
Oh, you love
I said
single payer.
everybody in the U.S. needs to be covered, and then we need to hold people accountable, and then we need to have competition for how to deliver care. That's what I said. Now, you can interpret that as you like.
I interpreted that as you love single payer. Z and single payer sitting in a tree. Kissing.
First comes communism, then comes fascism, then comes Z-Dog in the
White House.
in the president's chair. Yes. One of those mothers that thinks her kid is dying and he only has gas, Adriana Addison. Well, that's the thing. So the complaint triggers my Dr. Elephant, and I'm like, come on, dude, this kid's fine. But again, you cannot triage at a distance of 4,000 miles and over the internet.
If I were that kid, I would be so incredibly embarrassed, Emily says. Okay, so I'm just going to tell a story about myself. My mother was mentally ill and would say crazy racist things in stores like JCPenney and stuff just randomly. And I've been this kid. It sucks. It's terrible.
That's really hard. And the problem, again, is since it's mental illness that's triggering it, it's not. You know what I think that's interesting, Tom, because a lot of people with mental illness, they express their inner elephant without filter.
Yeah.
So imagine if all of us did that, what would we find? We'd find a lot of racism. Like, it wouldn't just be one or two people. It would be a lot of people going, this is what I think about Mexicans, or this is what I think about Chinese people. And it would be rather horrifying and yet interesting as a sociologic experiment, because our conditioning runs deep. A lot of stereotypes are based on some experience that reinforces the stereotype. And if we can't even talk about it, that's why I think comedy is so great. Like, stand-up comedy is one of the most anti-racism provoking, meaning true bigotry provoking things, because people talk about race in an open and comedic way. They laugh at it. They laugh at each other and themselves.
Let me ask you a
that's a
question.
magical thing.
How many times have you experienced direct racism in a hospital setting? You yourself.
You know, if I experience it, it's so under the radar that I can't tell. And so, which makes it a little harder. When I was younger, I would experience it from kids, because kids are stupid as fuck and they don't know not to say racist shit. They just say it. Like, are you from Iran? I'm like, I wish, because I want to be like the Iron Sheik, because back then I was into hella WWF wrestling before they turned it into WWE and made it into crap. But yeah, the Iron Sheik was awesome, because he'd be like, hey, America, Iran #1. And I always wanted to be from Iran just so I could be like the Iron Sheik. I even got the haircut eventually. But no, I never directly experienced it in the hospital, although I suspect it was there and I just never knew it. When they saw my name, Damanya, they were like, is this guy going to speak English? You know, all the usual shit. Now, when I was working at the VA, we had a lot of Vietnam vets, Korean War vets, who had a conditioned response to Asian people in general. And when they got delirious, or even when they didn't get delirious, they got really edgy when a Filipino nurse came or an Asian doctor came, and they would talk hella shit. And again, this is a deep cultural and environmental conditioning. So how do you address it? One thing I'm going to say is we can have zero tolerance for it, but I think really throwing hatred back at people who behave this way is not going to end well. It doesn't recondition the elephant. It causes people to dig in and reestablish that they're under attack or their defensive posture, because that's what elephants do. What we need to do is actually somehow match that with compassion, which is very difficult when you see this kind of behavior as we see in the video. Like, the daughter of the guy filming went up and got in her face and called her a racist and all this other stuff. Do you guys really think, as satisfying as that is to see, did it help anything in terms of that woman's behavior? It caused her to escalate even more and get more defensive and entrenched, and probably more fear wrapped into the whole thing. So I don't know, guys. There's a way to do this. Once we crack that code, we get a better society and treat each other better, especially in healthcare, but all over.
Ashley says, Z, is it racist for a black person to choose a PCM because they're black to support black professionals?
Oh, this is a great question.
What's a PCM?
Primary care, I think either it was I'm missing the acronym, or they meant to say PCP or primary care medic or something. I may be wrong, guys. Well, the bottom line is this is a great question. You know what? I'm going to toss this question to Logan, our resident conservative.
Yay.
Do you think this is okay? It's a kind of affirmative action, isn't it?
I mean, it's self-segregation, Z. So it kind of boils down to that whole,
Well, I can see that point. I can also see the person's question. I think her point is, black professionals are underrepresented. They tend to be supported less. There's maybe institutional bias or historical bias. Is it okay for a black person, a black patient, to say, I'm going to support, better long-term integration by choosing a black provider, or is it promoting segregation?
Well, I mean, again, like, why does it matter what race somebody is? Wouldn't you just want to pick the best doctor you could?
Right. Well, I guess the question then is the patient making a political statement, or supporting an in-group, out-group conflict. This is a complex question, guys. Like, there's no good answer for this.
Isn't that kind of the same as this lady wanting a white physician because she's white?
Oh, it's different in this way. And this is, again, my take on the question. It's different in that this is saying a minority group that's historically been disenfranchised is put, and again, I'm going to give you the liberal angle on this. A minority group that's been historically disenfranchised is saying, I'm going to help re-enfranchise us by supporting the few African American physicians that are in the workforce now by choosing that person actively and giving them a patient panel and support. So that is the angle on that. And it's a very similar angle, actually. I think it's a related angle to affirmative action. So you can have opinions both ways on this, and you're not wrong to have those opinions. It's
Sounds
just
like
that's
you're
how
saying only white people can be racist. See?
No.
That's what you just said,
That
see?
is what you're
No,
saying.
that's not what I said.
So she can pick a white physician.
I
'cause
said
she's white,
this
but
is
she
the
can't-
liberal explanation for why you can do that, but a white person can't pick a white doctor because white people are already
That
franchised.
sounds like racism to me.
But is it? Is it?
think it is.
I'm willing to entertain that idea. Could that be a racist stance?
Tom, as a white person, is that racism?
And no comment.
I mean, I think it's worth entertaining all these stances and asking these tough questions. But look how, I want to say one thing. Look how Logan and I discuss this topic, right? We may even be on different sides of this. We may be on the same side. You guys will never know because we're having a civil discussion about it. We're not going, fucking that's racism and you're an asshole, or fucking you're a racist, Logan, because white people suck, and so on and so forth. That's not what's happening. This is how we ought to talk about race.
You got called racist a few times this week, and they're doing it in an attempt to silence you.
Yeah.
You're saying things they don't want to hear.
Yeah. Anytime, and the reason they're calling me racist now is because I pissed them off about nurse practitioners. So I supported nurse practitioners as part of the team, and I apparently wasn't negative enough about them and positive enough about doctors, right? That they said, they went back and I got messages like, and I've always thought you were a racist. It's like, oh, so that comes out now because you're trying to justify, your writer is trying to justify your elephant's disgust at the idea that I would support integration of nurse practitioners into practice. And I never said anything about giving them uncollaborated non-physician partnerships, and that's what they do because listen, that's why you cannot have discussion if you don't speak to the elephant first and respect another person's elephant. I respect Logan's elephant. I'm not sure what he thinks of mine, but he behaves like he respects it. Therefore, my writer is willing to listen and have a conversation and actually see both sides of a very complicated story. Now, if Logan came at me the way the woman in the video came at that group and said, I want a white doctor because these people have brown teeth and they can't speak English, it's going to trigger my elephant to go, this woman is a psycho racist bitch and needs to be stopped. And nothing that you tell me is something that my writer isn't going to spin to support what my elephant already believes, because that's how we work. We're 99% intuitive and 1% rational. And to grow the rational part, we have to respect each other's intuitive engine.
So California is majority Hispanic now.
Yeah.
So would a white person seeking out a white physician who is now a minority, would that be affirmative action?
This is a tremendously good question, Logan Stewart. I don't know the answer to that.
Wait, is California
It is.
if you count all the illegals?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really? A majority minority in California
Hispanic.
now?
Somebody
I didn't know
Google that for me. I
It
don't
is,
think
it
Logan's.
is true.
I don't think
Yeah,
Logan's correct.
maybe Google that. We may be making shit up. Logan may be making shit up for his confirmation bias. He's like, yeah, it's majority brown.
One of the things that's interesting about the whole white privilege thing is like that people, as a white guy, people just kind of want you to shut the fuck up and get out of the conversation. Like,
Yeah.
Someone can tell you to shut up.
it's a method to silence you and just be like, you shouldn't have an opinion on
Let-
race. So I just kind of am like,
Let me tell you something about that, Tom, because to me, that is one of the most infuriating fucking things that I see nowadays in society, that white people aren't allowed to talk about race. Okay, I don't care what the history of race is in this country, and it's a horrible history, right? I don't care. If you're excluding a major, are you showing me this?
Oh, it's from the LA Times.
If you're
you fucked up.
excluding me a major...
I got served an ad, Z. Hang on. There it is. There it is. It's official. Latinos are now outnumbering whites in California.
Wow, that's from the LA Times. All right.
Told you.
Okay, and the LA Times is a pretty liberal rag, so I buy it. But the thing is, if you're excluding white people from conversing about race, then fuck you. You're an asshole. You're just as bad as the most racist white person. So we need to all be at the table. You know, Josh Point oh used to be in the thing. He used to say he couldn't joke about race. He couldn't do anything because he was white and he felt like it wasn't okay to do that. And my feeling is, you know, I would start every rotation, and I'm brown, so I felt like I don't know, I must have occultly felt like I could just do this. I would start every rotation, we'd have interns, residents, everything, and I would be like, okay guys, let's start a race war. Who's gonna do this with me? And I was the attending, so I was already in power. And I was like, I want no fucking holds barred. And they would look at me like I was crazy. By the end of the rotation, everybody was talking about everything, and there was minimal to zero butt hurt. And I think you gotta have the conversation, right? Like, my style may not be for everyone, but if you're not even able to talk about it, like if Tom can't talk about race, then we can't have a conversation.
Yeah, Carissa says we aren't allowed to talk about race as white people without being racist or being considered or labeled a white supremacist. She's right.
Well, look, dude, I can't talk about fucking race according to the people who've been hating on me because I'm not Muslim. Well, we can have a conversation about different ideology and literal interpretations of any belief, and I don't care who you are. You can have the conversation, right? And I don't think you should be labeled a racist. Ashley Magurk says, we have a Muslim nurse who wears a headscarf. She experienced hatred by having patients refuse to have her as a nurse just by having the headscarf. The family was very backwoods, rural Tennessee, and just didn't understand and were really scared of her. So here's the thing. When you're watching TV and you see people with headscarves in all the movies throwing bombs and grenades, of course you're conditioned to be nervous when that happens. And so I don't think we should hate that family. We should say, well, what can we do better in society to integrate our understanding of all these different cultures and the role of people with headscarves and the role of people without headscarves. And we can't even have the conversation if we're shutting it down. And I'll tell you, the college campuses now, all they do is shut down this discourse, which I think is horrible, you know?
Well, there was a incident at Trinity College, I think this week or last, where a professor who teaches courses on racism went on a tirade on Twitter saying that you should kill white people, you should let them drown if they're drowning, you should let them bleed out if they're bleeding, let them all fucking die. And this professor has not been removed from this university. So clearly it is okay to go after white people in this way.
Yeah, but he's tenured. So you don't get removed if you're tenured no matter what.
If you were a tenured professor and you went after black people, you said they can all drown, they can all die, they can all bleed out, you'd be removed. They would find a way to remove you.
Well, it's interesting. Let's think about this. So when I was at Berkeley, there was this guy, Duesenberg, who claimed...
Oh my God,
do you remember
Duesenberg's a fucking moron.
Okay.
He thinks HIV is caused by partying. Like that gay dudes party too much. That's why they get HIV.
Okay, you shut your mouth hole right now. He is a patriot and a hero. That's what people will tell you. So Duesenberg was a fucking biochemistry professor, and he thought HIV was caused truly by gay behavior, by drug use, by anal sex, whatever it was. He thought that's what caused it. And he said HIV was just a bystander virus, and that when we gave people AZT, which was the drug at the time, it was actually inducing immune dysfunction and causing AIDS. And he used to say in his German accent, AZT is AIDS by prescription. I don't know what kind of accent that was, but it was not German. All right. And in any event, Duesenberg, tenured professor, they couldn't fuck with him. So I don't know that the guy would be removed even if he were racist against black people or Hispanics or whoever. But maybe I'm wrong.
Let's see. Angelica says, this conversation is good, but can you lessen up the foul words?
You know what?
We went too far, Angelica.
We did.
God
She's
damn
right.
it. Fuck, we went too fucking far,
Let's get it out of our system real quick.
Fuck this shit. Damn it. Butts.
Shit.
Poops.
I feel better. Okay, and actually she asked very nicely, so I'm going to listen to her. So we're going to keep the conversation clean from here on out for the rest of this, but not tomorrow, because tomorrow we're fucking going crazy.
First Amendment.
First Amendment rights,
So Carissa
whatever.
says.
It's a vicious cycle that will always exist, sad but true about many things in society. It's old-fashioned witch trial in the U.S. when you discuss religion, politics, racism, etc., anywhere other than in the company of family and friends. Even in that company, you can cause butthurt. This is my goal, guys. I'm going to tell you. We talk about what is the movement. What is the movement? The movement is to be able to talk about politics, religion, racism, openly together without hating each other. If we can even have the conversation in a civil way and even disagree and civilly and learn something from each other, oh my gosh, have we advanced as a people.
Angela says thank you.
You're welcome, Angela. You're adorable.
And Taylor Bone says, blatant disrespect for your audience.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Really?
No, he's just being a troll.
I was going to drop an F-bomb on him, but I promised Angela.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to
that's true.
do it.
That's
People
true.
are calling you racist for saying headscarf instead of
Hijab?
Hijab.
Yeah.
There, I just said hijab. Am I still a racist?
Yes.
Aren't hijabs oppressive to women? Am I the only one that feels that way?
All I know is all these illegal immigrants took my hijabs. See what I did there? See what
That
I
was
did there?
bad.
That was dumb. We will all be on a CIA watch list. Paul Moutre. Yes, we will. The microwave is already scanning me. My Samsung TV already took pictures of my balls. Why were my balls there? Don't know. Why did I just mention that? Should have just thought it. Came out of my head because we're on live TV. Why watch a live video of someone who's comfortable using cuss words if you don't like them? Just wondering, Corrine O'Neill. Well, this is a whole separate conversation. Tribe Talk is our dirty talk. Incident report straight up is a cleaner thing that, a little more professional.
And AMA.
Incident
And
report
AMA.
is when we get moderately real.
Yes.
Tribe Talk is when we get moderately to severely real. Yeah.
And AMA is when we just crush it. We just crush it. Against medical advice. Oh my God, lighten up, people, it's off shift. Mary Wayhammer, that's true. Liz Mangieri, terrible sequelae here reading about dentist suicide being more common in their group because they frequently administer euthanasia. What?
Dentists?
Dentists? Maybe she meant vets.
Dentists be killing people, Z.
I know, dude, it's like Dr. Giggles, man. What was the movie with the barber who cut people up?
Sweeney Todd?
Yes.
The demon barber of Fleet Street,
Yes, the Fleet Cinema barber.
who was played by Johnny Depp, who really can't sing.
No.
The language does not bother me, but I did notice that you're swearing much more. I think the topic brings out strong emotions, Clyde says.
It kind of does. I think when we get really fired up, we tend to curse. That's our thing. And you know what? Honestly, I'm that way in real life, and I'm that way in the break room, and I'm that way in the call room. I'm not that way in front of patients. I'm not that way on the road when I talk. So I think having different aspects to your personality, being able to show them in different ways is important. You guys come here for Tribe Talk. If you see the words Tribe Talk, you know there's going to be shit talking. Sorry, Angela. If you see just plain incident report, Tom will probably let an F-bomb drop because he's absolutely has no impulse control. But I do because I have years of formal training in impulse control. It's called what we do. I have the vocabulary of a well-educated sailor, says Nicola Roger. It's pretty good.
You know, the thing about racism that gets you so whipped up is like, you can't control it. You can't control your race. So
Yeah.
if somebody's judging you on things you can't control, you feel bad about it.
It's really, I mean,
you know?
the white devil here just nailed it. Like, that's really what it is. It's like, I'm born this way. I'm just as God made me. Like, why are you fucking with me? Like, I can't help being short. I can't help being brown. I can't help being bald, I don't think. They haven't come up with that yet.
See, I just felt like we were going to get over racism like by this time.
Yeah.
We've already pretty much all gotten over gay marriage. We've all been like, that's something they can't control. They're just gay. And so we're all like, that's cool. You go be gay, right? Why
Right.
can't we do the same thing about your race?
We will. We'll get there. I know we will. I have faith in us. If we don't blow each other up, we will get to that point. I mean, it's already the world we live in now is 99% more tolerant than the world of Game of Thrones, which was basically most of human history.
Oh, now it's all thought crime. I mean, racism used to have to be an action. You had
Right.
to do something to
Right.
somebody. Now it's just a thought crime.
Right. Like, I was just thinking about interracial porn, and I was like, did I just commit a thought crime?
You did. Yeah.
Probably.
A sexy thought crime.
Also probably a real crime. Sexy thought crime. And on that note, should we call the code, Dr. Heineber?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it, you guys.
I guess we're out.
We're out, yo.
Peace.
When I grow up, I'm going to be the head of the Illuminati because I'm a white devil.
Wow. That was
I hate you so much, Tom Heineber. I really do.
really loud.
Am I?